everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Seth, and today's video I'm going to be doing a spoiler review on the movie Obsession. Now this is your warning. I'm going to be talking about the movie and what goes on in the movie, giving my thoughts and opinions, really analyzing this. So if you have not seen the movie, or do not want to know anything about the movie, that is your warning. But if you don't care, stick around for this rest of this video as I give you my thoughts and opinions on it. Now, this is not the first time I've seen this movie, it's not the second time, and both times I watched it, I really loved it. Still holds up on the second watch, Now, I have done a movie review on it, and if you want to go see that, you can. It is a non-spoiler review, but in this, I really just want to give all my thoughts and opinions because I have so many things I want to say in this movie, but that would be giving away the movie, so I'm going to. So, spoiler review is coming in. Now, this movie is a suspense horror movie, but at the same time too, it is such a relatable movie. And the relatableness of it is too, we've all had a crush on somebody, and we all, hope that they had the same feelings for us too, And it can either go different ways, You get the courage, you ask that person out, they say yes, they feel the same way too, and you start a relationship with that person. Or it could go another way too of, you ask the person out, they say no, I do not feel the same way, and you just feel depressed, embarrassed, and just sad, Or it could go a different way too of, you just never ask the person out, and that fantasy of that person in your head will just stay on for the rest of their life, wondering, why couldn't you ever ask that person out, Now, I'm going to be breaking this down in this video of different categories, talking about this movie with different topics, But we're going to be focusing on 4 people in this. And 2 of those people will be the main characters we'll be talking about. And the main characters will be Bear and Nikki, while the other 2 people will be Ian and Sarah. So we'll most likely be talking about Bear and Nikki throughout this video. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about what really happened in this. So a brief synopsis of this is, Bear, Nikki, Ian, and Sarah all work together at a music place. And kind of a friend group too, kind of in a sense, which this movie really dives into the most toxic relationship of them all. Work relationships. Oof, don't get into them. Now, Bear is your shy, introverted guy who really just keeps to himself, but he has a crush on his friend, Nikki, who's also his coworker too, and he's really hoping Nikki feels the same way too about Bear. So, also too, I feel like if Bear didn't ever do, the possession thing and made that wish, I feel like Nikki would have been okay with trying to start a relationship with Bear. Now, I don't think she would have been head over heels for Bear, but she would at least wanted to see where it went and tried it out, in this relationship. But of course, Bear never got the courage up to ask Nikki out, so he buys this little thing called a one-wish willow, which is kind of a wishbone in a sense, you make the wish, you break it, it happens. And that's what he does. He makes a wish for Nikki to love him more than any other person in this world. And the wish happens automatically, So throughout the movie you get to see, Bear and Nikki be in a relationship and see all the happy moments, but at the same time too, throughout the movie, you get to see the horror elements of what is going on, with Nikki being super clingy and just affectionate, always wanting to be next to Bear and stuff. And then also too, at the same time too, she's having such a thing of putting so much affection into giving Bear. Bear not doing it too, so she's kind of going like, why don't you love me as much? And going a little crazy. Which, even though she's possessed, it's still a relatable thing that happens in relationships. Some people really put an effort and affection into relationships, while other people in that relationship don't. And that can really make the person who is putting affection in, make them feel like, do you love me as much as, I do? Because I'm putting all this work in and you're doing the bare minimum, if not even that. Which will really make people go insane or just feel really crazy and feel like, do you even love me? So that's one relatable thing that I think this movie did really well. But yeah, and throughout the movie too, we'll get into more of it, but that's the main briefest of this movie. And in the first category I want to talk about is the friend group. Bear, Nikki, Ian, and Sarah, which, this is my thoughts and my opinions on it, I don't think is a good friend group. I think out of all of them, not really a lot of them like each other and are just fake. Like the only two people who I think actually generally are good friends to each other is Bear and Sarah, and we'll get more into that later. But yeah, you got the two main guys in this movie, who is Ian and Bear. And Ian's all like through this movie, man, you're my dog, you're my friend, man, I got you no matter what. But at the same time too, Ian knows that Bear has a crush on Nikki through the past 2 years, Ian has been having a sexual relationship with Nikki and didn't even want to tell the guy. And Ian knew that Bear liked Nikki. And he's still having a friends with benefits. You know, Ian and Nikki are having a friends with benefits. Ian, that's some fakeness right there. I mean, come on, man. And at the same time, too, Ian throughout this movie is really thinking Nikki is just trying to get back at him with getting with Bear, not knowing, you know, too, that Nikki's under our possession. But, you know, through this whole movie, Ian is to Bear like, man, you're my dog, man. I got you, man. You're my friend. I'll do anything for you. No, you won't. You're fake, Ian, when it comes to friends with Bear. But at the same time, too, Bear is not that great of a friend, too, but not as bad as I think is Ian. Bear, at the end, really wants Ian to do something that Ian's not comfortable with, you know. And then too, we got to the two main girls, Sarah and Nikki, which they say they're friends, but Sarah and Nikki do spread rumors around each other the whole entire time. Like in the beginning, Nikki says before she gets possessed to Bear, hey, what would you think about Sarah if Sarah had a crush on you? First of all, Nikki, that is none of your business. How would you feel if somebody you told who thought you were your friend, hey, I got a crush on this dude, and then that friend God tells that person without you knowing that, and your acceptance of you telling that person, you wouldn't feel so happy about it. So, that's not nice of you, Nikki, to do that to Sarah. And then on the thing with Sarah, you know, Nikki is possessed and stuff like that, and Nikki does not have a good relationship with her father. And Nikki, while she's possessed, is saying, you know, that her dad is dying of cancer, and just her relationship with her father is getting better. Well, Sarah, towards the end, is like, that's not true. That's not true. Nikki actually hates her father, and he's actually healthy. I actually went to the hospital, and there's no recollection of him ever being sick and stuff like that. And then Sarah also tells Bear about the whole Nikki and Ian situation. So they're always just spreading things around with each other and stuff like that, and you're just feeling a lot of just fakeness. Now, as I said, we're going to talk about the only friendship I think was genuine, which was Bear and Sarah. Why I say that too was Sarah has a crush, as I said in the beginning of this category topic. Sarah has a crush on Bear. And throughout this movie, you know, Bear never really felt that way, but with the craziness and the horror elements of the relationship Bear's having with Nikki, towards the end, he's more open up to, I guess, getting the courage and to tell Sarah, hey, I might be feeling the same way with having a crush on you, Sarah. But we never get to see how that plays out because while that's going on, Nikki, who is still possessed, kills Sarah in a very gruesome way. So, you know, we'll never get to see that relationship pander out on will Bear and Sarah ever get to have that relationship. But yeah, I just really thought watching this movie, fake friends. Fake friends. But yeah, that was the first category I wanted to talk about. The next category I want to talk about is really what I think the message of the movie is be careful what you wish for, you know? Now, as we all know, Bear really liked Nikki and had a crush on her, and just really wanted to be with her, you know? But throughout this movie, you kind of get to see as I said, be careful what you wish for. And really, Bear too, to be honest with you, he puts on the quote-unquote, I'm a nice guy, you know? Which, if you guys say you're a nice guy, most of the time, you're not a nice guy. So, that's because throughout this movie, you know, he puts a possession and a wish on Nikki, which I think he really liked the idea of Nikki, not Nikki the person, just the idea of him, because throughout this movie, why would you put a possession and a wish on someone that you care about, you know? And throughout this movie, you'll get to see possession Nikki and real Nikki try to fight off who's going to take possession of the body, you know? And toward this movie too, even, the real Nikki will come off and she'll be like, help me, help me, help me, and then the possession Nikki will take over. And there was this one scene where possession Nikki is sleeping, so the real Nikki, you know, says something to Bear, and Bear is like, well, what Nikki says is like, please kill me, Bear, please kill me, you know? And Bear's all like, he's exactly what he says, is it that hard to love me? Come on, Bear, come on. And you can see too that Bear, as I say, the friend group is not great, because if he was willing to do some of these things to these friends, were they really your friends, you know? Because it's not towards the end where he starts to see, okay, I'm affecting now other people with this wish that I did. And he's like, and his first thought is, maybe I can course correct it, you know, and stuff like that, and she could still love me, but I can alternate the wish. Because when he has the one wish will box, it has like a call number you can call. So he calls and goes, and the guy, he says, can I alternate the wish? And the guy on the other line goes, no, you can't. So he goes, well, is the love really truly there? Oh, she is possessed, but it doesn't mean that the love isn't true, you know, and stuff like that. And yes, then he says, then the guy on the other line says, you know, the only way to get this wish to stop is either you have to kill yourself or kill her. Well, Bear does not like that answer, and then the other guy on the other line is like, do you want to hear Nikki? And you could just hear her screaming, ah, 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 which I think she's trapped in hell. Her soul is trapped in hell because of the possession. That's just my opinion, and when I think on it, I could be wrong, but that's what I thought when I heard that. And Bear still keeps on going with this relationship because he's getting what he's always wanted, Nikki to love him. But he's not doing it in the nice way. He's doing it in just the mean way. 2. And it's not until, I think, when Sarah dies, because Sarah throughout this movie was trying to get into this college and she kept getting rejected. Well, she tried one more time and she had a letter that she wanted to open with Bear. And before she could open that letter, she dies, of course, so Bear opens it. It's an acceptance letter to the college. And at that moment, I think he finally realized, okay, I gotta really, you know, figure this thing out. But yeah, it was just, Bear was just not a nice person in this, and he gave off the typical, I'm a nice guy, you know. And he really, I don't think he ever really cared about Nikki. He just loved the idea of Nikki. Also too, I'm seeing other people's reaction reviews on this movie, and one topic they always talk about is, did Bear know that the wish really worked? Because how would you know that the wish worked? I gotta say, personally, I think Bear knew from the start that his wish worked. Because, you know, before he even made the wish, Nikki was going to her house, you know, and she looks like you can hear her open or close the door, and then when Bear actually makes the wish, Nikki's coming back to his car, you know, and as soon as he starts getting uncomfortable vibes from Nikki, he cuts to the one wish willow box that he just made the wish on, kind of implying that did the wish actually work? And throughout the movie too, when people ask how did Nikki fall so much in love with you, he always deflects and always goes, oh, she's just having a hard time, or oh, she's just going through a lot right now. Which really goes into the message of, I think he just liked Nikki for the idea of her, not the actual part of who Nikki really is. And for our third category we're going to be talking about in this video is Indy Navarrete, who plays Nikki's performance in this movie. Now, she did an amazing job in this movie. She really gave it all she had and did a phenomenal job. It's going to be one of those performances that really boost her up in her career and make her even become a horror icon in a sense. It's going to be one of those too where it could be like Amy Madigan's from Weapons kind of situation, where the hype of the movie just keeps going until we get to award season, and maybe Indy Navarrete could win some awards. I really hope so, but that's just what I think could possibly happen in the future. Now, I did watch a lot of interviews and also some reviews on people talking about the movie, but in the interviews, Indy Navarrete talked about like her, I guess, process of doing this character, and she really said she went fully into it, you know, put everything she had on the line, because Curry Barker, the director slash writer of this movie, and Michael Johnson, the guy who plays Bear, really gave her the space to feel comfortable, to try things out, and to really just go for it. But, you know, in some other interviews too, she said too that, you know, of course she put everything she had into it, but at the same time too, she wanted this performance to some way feel relatable in a sense, you know, for some people like, yeah, she's possessed, but I've been that way too sometimes in a relationship, which she does, as I say, to give relatable things throughout this movie, you know. And in also some other interviews too, she talks about like, what was one of her big inspirations in doing this movie was Mia Goth. Now, if any of you know me, I'm a big Mia Goth fan. I think she's so underrated. I mean, she is such a good actress, no matter what genre you put her in, but she really, really strives at horror. She's a horror icon. And her performance that she really, Indy Navarrete, really was taking inspiration from was Mia Goth as Pearl. Now, I love Pearl movie. I love it so much that I even got the DVD for it. And I just really love that trilogy to even be honest with you. And I've always stated, Mia Goth is such a great actor. And you can really see too, when you watch this movie, I guess, how she's trying to pick up on that Pearl as acting prosthetic, you know. But also too, throughout this movie, when I kept getting the possession of Nikki, I kept thinking of the movie The Thing by John Carpenter, like how, you know, when people are getting possessed, you know, you're seeing still a human being, but their mannerisms and how they're doing things are just a little bit off, and it kind of gives you that uncanny valley, you know, kind of aspect. Like, for example, the lights are on in the house, but no one's there, you know. And that's really what this movie, I think, does a great job on that. You know, because as I talked about in my movie review past, you know, with the shadows and stuff like that, to really help you kind of get the horror elements, which I do think they did such a great job, because throughout this movie, Nikki will be, you know, in some shadows, and you really get to see, in some scenes, her silhouette of her body, which, you know, they cut to that and they show that. That's scary. I don't care what anybody says. That's scary. And then at some scenes too, they show her face, but it's very dark. You only can really see the eyes, maybe, or the mouth. And it's just, as I say, it gives that uncanny valley of your brain is registering, okay, that's a person, but your brain is also going, okay, but how they're doing is not very normal, and it gets into that flight or fight of their mannerisms are just so weird. What is going on? Stuff like that. And this movie does that because, you know, when Nikki confesses that she likes Bear while she's under possession, all you're really getting to see is really her eyes, because everything else, her face is just really dark, and it gives you that creepy atmosphere that Curry Barker, the director slash writer, does such a great job. And I really think that this performance that ending of Variety gave us Nikki was just so good. And then the last category I want to talk about is the ending. Now how the ending works is Bear, of course, now is like, okay, I gotta try to figure this thing out and stuff like that. He really doesn't want to try to kill himself, but at the same time too, he really still wants Nikki to love him. But it's getting more to the times of he's like, okay, I'm most likely gonna have to kill myself or kill her. But he doesn't have really the guts to kill her, so he's most likely, okay, you know. So he buys some more One Wish Willows, and he goes to Ian's house, and he's all like, hey man, can you make this wish of just trying to undo the wish I did? And here's where we get into the fake friend, because Ian is like, nope, not comfortable with that, but he will make a wish, and he wishes for $1 billion. Which at the same time too, Bear, you shouldn't put that on a friend to do that, because you know the effects, you know, and the horrors of making a wish. But of course Ian does get that $1 billion, and when he goes to that house, you know, Ian's like, I want $1 billion. Well, Nikki kills Ian, shoots him in the head. So now Sarah's dead, Ian's dead, and Bear, you know, is like trying to comfort Nikki, being like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, I love you, I love you, I love you, we'll get through this and stuff like that. And he goes, okay, I gotta use the restroom. And he really goes quickly to the restroom before Nikki could get in there. And Nikki is just going crazy. She's like, I hate you, F you, F you. We should break up, we should break up. Okay, we can take some time, and stuff like that. Now, Bear has a gun in his hand, and he's trying to use that gun to end his life, but he just doesn't have the guts to do it. So, he takes some pills, ingests a lot of them, and stuff, but because he has that moment where he's like, okay, he wants to throw him up because of, you know, not wanting to die and stuff. Well, Nikki makes a wish on Bear for Bear to love him as much as Nikki does. So he goes out there, and for like a couple of seconds, you can really see Nikki and Bear just really love each other, you know, hold each other, you know, just really feel the love for each other. And then the pills kick in, and Bear dies. And Nikki is like holding him, screaming, no, 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 and crying, really like, no, no, no. And then the possession wears off. And in at that moment, the real Nikki comes back to life, and she sees the horror and just what's all gone around her. And she just, you could see the horror aspects of what's all going down, because, you know, in her hands is Bear dead, and then to her left is Ian dead, and to her right is Sarah dead, and she doesn't know what's going on. She completely does not know what's going on. All her friends are dead, and it's just that like of what is going on. So that's gotta be a lot of trauma dumped on you, and just that last scene too is so like, oh, like get you good and really horror, you know. But at the same time too, I really want to know what happens after the words. So the cop gets called. How does Nikki live her life after that? You know, I don't think I told you this a little bit, but no, Nikki was wanting to quit her job and become a writer and stuff like that, but she was really wanting something to just push her to do it. And she was wanting a romance story, or I guess a love story, she said, to be precise. But now she got a horror story, so she could use this to become a writer and write her whole story about this thing going on. But I really just wanted to know what would happen after all these events, you know, happen with Nikki and stuff. Well, you know, we won't get to see that, but at the same time too, that ending scene was really good because it shows you just the grandiose of what happened, and now Nikki has to deal with all that trauma. But yeah, as I said, I really enjoyed this movie. Curry Barker, who directed this, written this, he even edited this. He did such a great job on this movie, and really is going to be such a star, you know, when it comes to directing, and has a bright future with him. And so does the cast too. Mike Johnson did a really great job. Cooper, Tomlin second place, and he did a great job too. Megan Lawless, who plays Sarah, did a great job too. And of course too, the star of the show, Indy Navarrete as Nikki, did such a great job. Really, all of them I think too are going to do such great things in their future, especially Indy Navarrete, you know. But yeah, that is my thoughts and opinions on this movie and just my analysis on the movie. I really truly enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend, if you've not seen this movie, to go watch it. So yeah, thank you for watching as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and goodbye.